And we're back. Welcome to episode 79 of The Game Changers. I'm your host, Carla, and tonight I'm bringing the heat with none other than Andrew Cooper. His knowledge and insights are sure to elevate our conversation as I dig into the game behind the game. A huge shout out to the incredible TSA team for backing this mission and amplifying voices and sparking ideas. This platform exists because of visionaries like them and listeners like you. Whether you're here for fantasy football goals or simply love stories that shift perspective, you're in the right place. The Game Changer is more than a podcast, it's a movement. Let's kick things off by getting to know our guest a little better. Who is Andrew Cooper? So today's guest is a fantasy football powerhouse. He's the man behind the yin and yang tight end strategy, the tight end whisperer himself, Andrew Cooper. Coop is the lead NFL analyst at Fantasy Alarm, a three-time FSWA award winner and a six-time finalist. He is basically the Meryl Streep of fantasy football, but with more spreadsheets and fewer red carpets. You've ever heard him break it all down on Sirius XM Fantasy Alarm Show and Game Day Sunday. And if you're ever drafted a tight end who didn't completely ruin your season, there's a good chance Coop had something to do with it. He's the creator of the dynamic tier ranking, a contributor of countless player profiles, and the host of Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco, a show that's as informative as it is entertaining. Whether you're building a dynasty, chasing baseball glory, or just trying to survive your office league, Coop has got the insights to give you the edge. So buckle up. We're diving into Sleepers Breakout, and yes, we will be talking tight end and definitely SFB 15 live from Boston. Let's welcome Andrew Cooper to the show. Hi, Coop. How are you tonight?
My goodness, what an intro, Carla. Unbelievable. I don't know what to say, dude. I'm all fired up now. I'm all fired. Let's just can you just talk about me for the rest of the show? Do you have anything any more in there? That
Of
was too
course.
flattering. Incredible, Carla. Thank you so much for
We,
having me.
oh,
I've been waiting for my turn to get on the Game Changers. I'm so glad it's back and I could help kick off this year.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. Like, this is a great kickoff, and I'm so honored that I get to meet you in Boston with your family this year. You have a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter, Katie and Lainey. So let's talk a little bit before we start everything. Let's talk a little bit about your family. Is Lainey still saying moo?
Sorry, is Lane still what?
Saying
Oh,
moo?
she's saying moo? Oh, yeah, yeah. That's the thing that's how I get her out of her shy zone because she doesn't know people, and you and Doug Orth show up, big personalities, right? And she was scared. So I always say to her, "Hey, what does the cow say?" And she said moo. I just love that Doug was like, moo. I grew up on a farm. She like they became best friends right away. And by the time you guys left, uh, she was saying a lot more than just moo. Also, I will say she's been playing with that little brush you gave her like
You're
every day.
kidding. Oh my God.
She slept with it in her crib that night and we woke up with it in her hands. Like she's just like popping it open and like popping it out. I was just we
Oh
buy her all these toys, all these like big elaborate toys, and one of her favorites right now is a brush from Carla. So you know.
You made my night. Oh my God. You don't know the stuff I was going through, and now you made my night. I love you, lady, if you are hearing me
I
right
mean,
now. Love you, love you, love
the reason we're able to do this tonight is that my wife had to work. She's staying with in-laws, so I made sure to get our shows scheduled for a day when I have time to do this. So,
you.
earlier today, Pete Overzet had me chugging milk.
Yeah.
I jumped on with Tip Major, and now I get to end my night with my good friend Carla. Does it get any better than that?
That's
Does
an
it get
honor. That's an honor. I really appreciate it. So I do have a question for you before we kick off. So Paul Becerra, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He wants to know if you ever sleep.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I I should sleep on days like today. I guess I will sleep later on, but there's too much to do right now. There's too much to do right now. I always tell myself I'm going to sleep during the off season, but instead I wrote. My off season series was more words than the first Harry Potter book. I actually have a article coming out, the Yin and Yang tight end article. So it's a whole series of articles, but the final one gets into the sleepers. That article currently sits at 9,800 words. Sometimes I cut some words out when I edit. Sometimes more words get added. So who knows where it's going to be? But there's a lot of
You
gifs in there, a lot of charts in there. So it's not. It won't feel like 10,000 words. I can tell you that. But I don't know. It's just we have 2 months. We have July and August. There's so much to get in. There's really no time to sleep. We can sleep when we're dead.
so you and Doug Orth are crazy, and Katie and I are angel school.
It's true. It's true.
We're
Big fan.
angel.
Doug, big fantasy. Or yeah, but I mean, it's just we do it because we love it. We do it
Oh
because
my
we love
God, I know, and I love that. And you have like he have my support, and I'm sure Katie have your support, and that's why you're able to be successful in what you do, which is really awesome.
it. True.
So
It's true.
let's talk about Coop and his fantasy football origins and everything. So you've became a household name in the fantasy football world. But let's rewind. What's the story behind your first ever fantasy football league? And did you dominate, or was it just a humbling experience?
So I actually my very first league, I was very young. I was in middle school, and
Yeah,
I didn't even want to play at all. Well, the thing is, the truth is, the first league I was ever involved in was my dad's back when I was like a kid, and I would like help him with that. But the first league I was in on my own, I was like, yeah, I don't have time for this, whatever. I was in like middle school, and my buddy actually created an account for me and made a team for me and said, "This is your team. You don't have to do anything." And I was like, "Okay, I'll play." He named my team the Wild Thornberries, which was a show on Nickelodeon like years ago. And
nice.
that's over 20 years old, and my team is still named the Wild Thornberries in that league to this day. So that was
Yeah,
my first effort playing. I went back and looked at some of those early teams. None of us knew what we were doing. I had 3 kickers on my first roster, which everyone knows you don't do. Shout out Olindo Mare, though. He was unbelievable for my team. And early on, I just figured out that like if you put in the work and do the research, you can get an edge on the people that don't. And one thing people have to remember is that we think about the industry and we think about our group in
yeah,
terms of who is active, right? Like when you go online, if you're somebody, you really got to start thinking of it this way. If you go on to Twitter or Blue Sky or Reddit, if you're even commenting, you're actually probably in the top 10, 15% of people in terms of activity, right? Most people basically just check out a guide. Maybe they get a magazine. Maybe they print out some rankings. A lot of people don't do anything. A lot of people just log in and draft their team. A
yes,
lot of people on Twitter just lurk. There's a huge percentage of people that have never actually tweeted. They just have an account and they're just looking at the info and researching. Probably at least half of them. So the fact that anyone's even engaging, like Carla, you yourself, you have a podcast, you're probably in the top 1% of people that care, right? So like if you can steep yourself in that stuff and control yourself from going overboard with the sleepers and all that stuff, then you can get a huge advantage in this game, much bigger advantage than you can get at the casino or at the sports book, which is what I really
yes,
truly love about.
that's awesome. So let's talk yin and yang a little bit. So your yin and yang tight end strategy has become legendary. If you had to explain it to someone who's never played fantasy football like me, how would you pitch it in like 30 seconds?
Yeah, so I love Tip Majors in the chat. I was actually just talking to him
Yeah,
about this. Basically, the idea is this: if you can get an elite tight end that you trust, do it at a cheap value, right? At a good price. Go ahead, get Brock Bowers if you get him at a good price. Then you only need one tight end. If you don't, draft two. Draft someone safe that you can start early in the year and then use a bench spot on the highest risk, highest reward option you could possibly use and keep switching out that option on your bench until you hit the upside. You don't want to have 2 tight ends that you rotate every week. You want to hit one and have him be your guy for the rest of the year. Was that 30 seconds?
you can pitch more. I'm fine.
No,
I love hearing
that that's really if 30 seconds is what I got, that's what I got. That's what we're doing is like if you can get the elite guy right from the rip, good, do it. If we don't get it, then we're using the bench spot and we're going to find the breakout tight end. And I'll tell you what, Carla, for 13 straight years, a tight end has come from outside the top 17 in ADP to finish top 5. Johnny Smith last year, Evan Ingram's done it twice, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Dalton Schultz. You can go all the way back to Julius Thomas with the Broncos in 2013. These guys are out there. We will find them.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about Scott Fishbowl. So Scott Fishbowl is a unique and impactful event in the fantasy community. What's your favorite memory from participating? And how do you approach drafting in such a wide format?
Yeah, I mean, I
Especially that
love
it's changing this year.
it
I heard
changes
that.
every year. It
Yes.
changes every year. Yeah. The live drafts are always fun, but my favorite memory by far is from the first one I ever got into. So I got in back in I don't even remember what it was. 2000 I mean, might have been 9. But so I get in and I immediately pick my draft spot. I'm so excited. I join one of the groups where you talk to all the other people drafting from your draft spot, and I'm all fired up. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm in there. I think I had like 300 followers at the time on Twitter, maybe if that. So I'm just like, chatting up people. I'm like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm thinking. And I come across people in that chat that are like, awesome. We're having fun. We're posting memes. And then like after a while, we realized we were the only one talking in the chat after everything was done. And we kind of created our own league. We were like, let's do our own side league. And we're all hanging out. And then eventually, a few people from that league, Linda Ellians Godfrey is her real name. Everyone knows her as
Yes.
Linda. All right.
Yes.
And then Kevin Tompkins, JB Barry, and Jordan Loop, they were like, hey, let's do a podcast. And I'm like, that sounds fun. You guys all have microphones? I don't have a microphone. I don't have any of that stuff. So then I reached out to John and Pemba at Fantasy Alarm, and I was like, hey, dude, like, these guys want me to do this like podcast. And he's like, good. He's like, you should do that. I was like, I don't have a mic. He goes, have my old one. I need a new one anyway. He gives me a microphone. I set it up on like a ironing board. Like I got nothing. I'm like literally sitting here with a microphone on an ironing board. Yeah. And like we started our own podcast, the Fantasy Besties. And like that was the most fun I've ever had doing this. We had so much fun. Like I constantly have fun and we're doing great. It is my job, right? So it's still
Yeah.
work. But like that during that period was the most fun because it was like those guys encouraged me to do this. I wouldn't be doing any of this without them. And it was just a blast. And they're still my friends to this very day.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So let's hype people up a little bit because we're gonna see each other in Boston. So what we're gonna do, like what people are going to expect from seeing there. Um, I know that we're going live. We're going live there. So what else they can expect at the Scottish Bowl this year in Boston?
Oh yeah. Well, first and foremost, like we've been doing it this year was a bit of a challenge because we've been doing it in Boston. Last year, anyone that went last year, it's not going to be as big a venue because last year FSGA basically gave us this giant ballroom, right? Like, it was crazy. This year we wanted to draft because it's football themed, like sports themed this year. We wanted to get away from the city. So we've done Fenway Park. We did Fenway Park twice. We did kind of the Seaport Boston. This year we're doing Gillette Stadium. We're drafting in the shadow of the beast. If the weather is good enough, we have an outside area where you can literally see down the tunnel onto the field. All right. So what's up? I don't want to give away too many spoilers about some things going on there, but we have a ton of giveaways, live giveaways, literally potentially live is a bit of a spoiler there. But it's going to be great. We have a whole section off there, and we're going to be doing a live show. You're going to be doing a live show, so I'm going to be able to jump in there, and hopefully we'll get some other guests on. It's going to be fantastic. That's at the Harp at Gillette Stadium. Things kick off for everybody. You can come in early and get brunch with us like 10:30. Things kick off around like 11. I encourage you, even if you're not drafting, to just come by and hang out. Like I'm drafting online because I'm hosting. I convinced Pete Overzet today to come by. He lives like right in the area, so he's going to come by and hang out. Mike Fael will be there, Andrew Erickson, just a ton of analysts, Bob Gilchrist, a bunch of people Zach Reed. Like there's just too many to even name. Dave Wright. Carla, Doug Orth. I mean, it's gonna be fantastic. So hopefully we get good weather. But we have a good spot regardless. But it just becomes that much better if the weather's nice. So fingers crossed.
I agree. We can go outside. It's a beautiful side. So
And
yeah, we're not gonna be too
the real
much.
show, the real star of the show is Carla. If you've ever been to the Boston Scott Fish Bowl, She makes the
Oh,
trains run on time. There's, she's the first person you see when you walk in the door. That's for sure. And she makes sure you get taken care of. There is no Scott Fishbowl Boston without Carla. There is no Scott Fishbowl Boston without Bob Gilchrist. And
I
I helped out a
appreciate it.
little bit too. So it's good stuff.
Oh, it's a teamwork. It's a teamwork.
Teamwork.
We all work together to make it happen, and it's gonna be amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for saying that. But it's not just me; it's everybody, which is amazing. Thank you, cool. So, can you can we talk a little bit about uh let's um talk about what states are fantasy gold when evaluating tight ends? Let's go back to the tight end stuff. So, what stats are fantasy gold when evaluating tight ends for you?
Yeah, so if I had to just put it on a napkin, the number one thing. So
Napkin?
let's start. Yeah, if I just write you one napkin and just slide it to you and be like, "Hey, look for this," I would
Yeah,
say look for a guy that's top two target on the team. That's the biggest thing because if you go back and look at the tight end position, going all the way back to 2003, so a 20 plus year sample size, 20 plus years, uh, every tight end that's finished top five in fantasy
yeah,
has gotten either 90 plus targets or 10 plus touchdowns or both. Okay. And very few of them have gotten there with only 10 touchdowns without getting the targets. We really are looking for 90 or more targets. Honestly, we're looking for 100. That's really what you kind of need to have upside. And we're looking for a top 5 tight end because if your league is 10 or 12 teams like most leagues are and your tight
yeah,
end is like tight end 7 or 8, all that means is you have one of the worst tight ends in your league. Like truly, like if you people are like, oh yeah, he was a tight end one last year. He was tight end 12. Well, that means he's the worst tight end starting tight end in fantasy. We're looking for upside. So we want guys that can either lead their team in targets or be second. It's very rare to have three guys all get 100 targets on the same team, right? So that's number
yeah,
one. If you can get a guy like that, great. The next thing that is huge to upside that people don't realize is athleticism is key. Guys that run faster 40 times, 4.5 or 4.6, ideally. Anything under 4.6 is like 90th percentile. Guys that run a 4.8 or slower have such a hard time of getting those extra yards. There's a reason that George Kittle has 18 plays of 40 plus yards in his career and Jake Ferguson has one, right? You go back and over the last like 20 years, there's been no tight ends that run a 4.8 or slower that have finished top five. The closest is probably Kyle Rudolph, and people weren't even that excited about Kyle Rudolph. He ran like a 4.78, like so, like really slow tight ends. You got to get him out, get him gone. Okay. The last thing I would say that is probably most important is success versus man to man. It ends up being crucial because touchdowns are really important in separating what we do, like separating how we get those points. When you get down to the goal line, to the red area, everybody tries to stop the run, it ends up being pretty exclusively man to man. Very rare to see zone defense inside of the 5 yard line or so. Guys that can win in man to man naturally do better in that area, naturally score more touchdowns. There's a reason that Hunter Henry scores so many touchdowns. Hunter Henry scored 6 touchdowns on a team that only threw 16 the year before last because he's very good in those situations. Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, those guys are very good in those type situations. So if you can find those type guys, the better off you're going to be. If we can't get the 90 targets, touchdowns is going to help us out a lot. Look at a guy like Tucker Kraft. He only got 70, but he had a couple 60-yard plays because he's athletic, and he also
yeah.
scored some touchdowns, right? So that's kind of the short and sweet. I have an article up. If you go and type fantasy alarm, what makes an elite tight end? I think if you actually type what makes an elite tight end into Google, it gives you like an AI summary of the article. Please click the article, but that's like the very long version of every single thing you need to be good at tight end. And my favorite thing ever, Carla, is when people read my series and they read my
Yeah.
articles and they come to me and they say, "Hey, I read your series. What do you think about this guy? I think this guy can be a top two target on the team. I think that this guy can do this." And they, even if I disagree, they're learning and they're getting better at this. And you know what? I'm not always right. Maybe they're right. Like if you learn this information, you can potentially be better at the tight end position than I am.
I agree. I mean, we all like love to talk about our stuff and put the information outside. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But it's really good to help people, understand your own like point of view or and like perspective into things, which is really amazing to share. And we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So my
In
next
my
question,
to help people with that, in my articles, I always
yeah,
I break it into three pieces. I do the good, the bad, and the advice. So
yeah,
the good is objective info, the bad is objective info, and the advice is my opinion. You can just read the first two parts and ignore the rest if you don't want
good.
my opinion. I just try. We want to help people win. That's all that matters.
That's amazing. My next question was to ask you about how do you lean into player athleticism, and you told me already that that's the most important part when when you evaluate your players. So that's really amazing. You're answering my questions before I ask you the question. But what's your scouting process like? Do you dig deep? Like, do you really go deep into the scouting process? Cool.
Yeah, so I definitely do. For rookies, I always pull up the stats and watch the tape. Because the thing about
Okay.
college football is that it's
Yeah.
a smaller sample size game. You can go out and watch every catch Luke Schoonmaker had. Like right now, it'll take you 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And again, for the stats, I like to look at how they're utilized, right? Because there's a lot of guys that are going to end up being blocking tight ends at this next level. And sometimes those guys go early in the drafts because people really they care about blocking in the NFL. Drew
Yeah.
Sample was a second round pick. Darnell Washington was a third round pick. Tip Ryman is like a third round pick. These guys are being picked to be blockers. And if you saw their college numbers on how often they were in line, how often they were asked to pass block on pass plays, it was pretty obvious that was going to be the case. For anybody that wants to scout by like watching film, I'll tell you this, you're not going to like we are not going to truly be able to scout on technique unless
Yeah.
you are like a professional level scout. The biggest problem you run into with the technique scouting is you don't know what these coaches believe that they can fix or not. So for us, we might look at it and say, "Oh, his first step off the line is terrible," whereas the tight end coach for the Raiders might say, "Hey, this guy, we got to work on his first step, but everything else is great." So like you could be knocking something for something that's not a problem at the next level. For what we do for fantasy, I would encourage people to watch the highlights and look for this. Look for difference making plays, difference making effort and ability and awareness, right? So pull up Luke Schoonmaker and you'll see him go out and catch a bunch of like play action and screens and passes versus zone, but he's not winning in man to man. He's not breaking tackles. He's not putting in extra effort. It's just not it's not something that's going to translate to the next level. Then you go and watch George Kittle or Sam Laporta. These guys are breaking tackles left and right. They're hurdling people. They're diving. They're finding creases when there's like three guys there. They're getting 3 more yards. Like, watch it and say to yourself, okay, is this guy special at this level? Because you need to be special in college to make it in the permanent all-star game that is the NFL. So when you're
Agree.
watching those highlights, look for those things. Watch Tyler Warren. I mean, this guy's lining up at wildcat quarterback. He's running the football. He threw a touchdown pass, Carla. I mean, he had the second most contested catches of any tight end. He had the most broken tackles. I mean, like that's what you look for. Look for a guy who looks like he doesn't belong because he's just that much better.
That's amazing news. I love hearing that. And sometimes you need to like look behind the box. Like you cannot have this box and that's it. I'm seeing this. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. Like maybe he's not good with that team. If he goes to another team, he's gonna be better. He's gonna have a better chance to be that star. Or
Right?
maybe an injury happen or something happen. So how do you
Bingo.
look? Yeah, how do you look about all of that? And with people that sometimes they are picking like the younger a player instead of the older player, would you try to help them understand that sometimes an older player might be better than the younger player? And that's in that point, Coop, what's your answer to that?
Exactly. And I'll tell you this, one thing that I've been saying this year is this. If nothing changes, then nothing changes, okay?
Yeah,
So, if we're looking for someone to do something different, something needs to be different. And you pointed out a couple good examples. If the guy was hurt last year, right? Like Mark Andrews was clearly not healthy at the beginning of the year. Obviously, he
Yeah.
was coming off tightrope surgery for high ankle sprain. He got into a car accident, but then he finished the year scoring like 10 touchdowns in 11 games or 11 touchdowns total. It's like clearly was not healthy. So that's a change. You can look at a guy changing teams and going into a better role, like Evan Engram, an older tight end who's now potentially going to be a top 2 target on the team. He's going to play the joker role, big slot tight end for Sean Payton. You can look at a team where one of the wide receivers leaves, and now instead of being the third target on the team, he can be a top 2 target on the team. I mean, coaching changes, quarterback changes. Those are the conditions that we need. Now, if things get worse for certain players, we have to account for that too. So like Jake Ferguson, not particularly fast. I hate to bash on him again, but not particularly fast. And they added George Pickens. So when you're setting up that target pecking order, it used to be CeeDee Lamb 1 by a mile, Jake Ferguson 2. Now to me, it's Lamb 1, Ferguson 2. Lamb 1, Pickens 2, Ferguson 3. That's kind of a tough situation. So for me, uh, like the things we use to evaluate the older guys are the same things we use to evaluate the younger guys. We were on Brock Bowers because we believed he could be a top 2 target on the team. Devontae Adams getting traded absolutely made that a lot easier. But same with Sam Laporta, same with Kyle Pitts when he had 1,000 yards once Julio Jones got traded, right? So like those are the things we're looking for. It doesn't change for rookies. So if you're going to go for a rookie and these young guys, you're going to need them to be in a position where they can still hit all those metrics and numbers we care about. It's not just some random guy is out there. He could be anything. He's got to be better than the current tight ends. He's got to be better than the wide receivers. That's the way she rolls. Always, that part doesn't change.
So do you believe in position scarcity then, or do you draft talent regardless at this point?
I believe in positional scarcity to a certain degree. I think it is overblown. And which is tough for me to say because I am
Yeah.
I'm a big tight end guy. I want people to believe in the tight end position. But at a certain point, you need to actually score more points than your opponent. You can't just show up to a matchup and say, okay, well, your guy scored 15 points but my tight end scored 10 and positional scarcity means I win. That's actually not how it works. Like if you get an elite tight end that's better than everyone else's tight end, that's great. You still need to have other elite players on your team to win. Like last year, for instance, Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, they scored 5 more points per game than the tight end 10, right? Which is pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, that gives you an advantage. But Jamar Chase scored 10 more points per game than the wide
Yeah.
receiver 3, right? The best tight end season of all time is my guy, Rob Gronkowski, go Patriots. He was catching balls from my guy, Tom Brady, right there. Uh, he scored 18 touchdowns. He scored 330 PPR points, right, Carla? Uh,
Yes.
that's not even in the top 100 flex seasons of all time. The guys like Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb are scoring 400 PPR points. Brock Bowers' season last year isn't even in the top 600 flex seasons of all time. In fantasy points per game, he was like flex player 35. So if you're drafting him in the second round, you actually need him to be better than he was last year for that to be, in my mind, worth the pick. For my first few picks, I'm taking guys I think can be the best fantasy football asset in the game. And once those guys run out, I'll start taking a quarterback or a tight end. So for me, I think positional scarcity might be overblown to a certain degree. I still
Yeah.
love tight ends, obviously, but I think we can get an advantage drafting them late.
Did you ever drafted a player you personally didn't believe in just as a test or for a theory?
I do it all the time, especially now that we play best ball, right?
Yes.
In best ball, I encourage everyone to play best ball and do low stakes drafts and do a few of them because it'll help you realize that like sometimes you got to just take the value. Like in best ball for me, my strategy is essentially this: I have guys I like and guys I don't like.
Yeah.
Guys I
Definitely.
like, I will take them at it. You right? Everyone does. Everyone does.
Yes.
Guys I like, I'll take them at ADP or before ADP, and I'll stack them with teammates and do all that. There comes a time where if a guy falls by a round or 2 full rounds, I'll take them even if I don't like them because I'm getting enough value. And the guy that won Best Ball Mania last year, he actually had multiple players on his team that a lot of people didn't like. They're boring, they were old, James Conner, Adam Thielen. but he got them 2 full rounds after where they went, and that value made the difference. I think that's a lesson that I think anyone can learn, that can translate to real drafts, is that, like, yes, you might not like a player, but ADP exists for a reason, and if you get a deep enough discount, you might want to take a shot on that player. You know what? Makes them an easier player to trade to. So I will draft guys I don't like from time to time. In my big important hometown leagues, I'm just really drafting my guys. I'm just, I'll mess around with best ball where it's like percentages and portfolios. In my important leagues and like the Scott Fish Bowl, I'm just drafting guys I like.
Yeah. If you had one draft rule you live by, what is it?
One draft, like one league I like,
One
or what?
draft rule, a
One
rule.
draft rule.
Yes, you live by. What is it?
Oh man. One draft rule that I live by. That is, you know what? I really, that's a tough one. I think the number one thing for me is make that, like, if I had to always abide by one singular rule, it's
Yeah,
make the pick. And what I mean by that is there's no worse feeling than auto drafting. There's no worse feeling than taking a guy that you don't want because you're panicking, taking a guy, you know what I mean, not getting your guy.
yeah,
Make sure you're in a position to make the pick. Set your queue, put your guys in there. If you're doing a live draft, pay attention, be ready, make be in a position to make the pick, because nothing can ruin your entire season than auto drafting and getting somebody you don't want. And because I've recorded like 17 hours of shows today, I auto drafted in Chuck Bass's league earlier today on a short clock and took a player I didn't like, and I'm still thinking about it right now. I should have Drake May, instead I have Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's fine, but like, be ready to make the guy a pick for the guy you want, because nothing hurts worse than spending an entire year looking at a guy on your roster that you didn't even want and you ended up with because you weren't
passionate.
paying attention.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see a lot of people like they have their sheets in front of them. If I don't get to pick this one, I have, someone else I can pick. So
Be
it's
ready.
really important to do your work. Really important to have that sheet in mind, not just like, okay, I'll pick this. I don't know what I'm picking. Or do you believe in AI, Coop? What do you think about it? Some
I
people
do.
have AI.
It's such a divisive topic. I'm glad you asked that, Carla, because it's such a
Yeah,
divisive topic. I will tell you this. I have two-sided opinion on AI. There's one part of AI that I truly dislike. The part that is being used to replace people's jobs, the part that's being used to create content that is poor quality slop, the part that's being used to replace artists, I do not like that. I don't
yeah,
like it at all. Uh, it's honestly, if we're going to use this resource, which is at this stage is not good for the environment, if we're going to use it, we need to use it for very specific instances that are helpful, that are not replacing people's jobs, that are adding value, right? So we actually did, because we always embrace the technology. At Fantasyland, we're always ahead of the curve every single time. We have to be, because we're not a big shop, right? So we are embracing AI in one aspect. I sat down and I talked to the guys about this. I was like, look, people hate this. People hate the idea of this. We're not going to be someone that's writing junk articles with this. We're not doing that. Here's what we can do. We basically created a tool. I also hate when it like steals from the rest of the industry. Like if
right?
your robot is stealing my takes and spitting them out, don't like that one bit. What we do have though, what we created, it's fantasyfootball.ai. And what that does is it takes our content and we basically feed it all of Fantasy Alarms content, as well as stats and data that are just like out there for everybody. Like everybody knows yards, touchdowns, things like that. We're
Yeah,
feeding this AI our information so that we have something available for people to ask questions to when we're not around. Like let's say you're somebody that sets your alarm and you wake up to. I'm not sure if you've ever done this. I know you don't play much fantasy, Carla, but you should
I
play.
don't play
You
anything.
are going to. You're going to play. We're going to get you to play. Yes, you will. But there are people that actually set their alarm and they wake up at like 3 and 4 in the morning to try to add guys off waivers after they run. If
Oh,
you're somebody like that, you can ask, if you're like, oh my God, who should I add? You can ask our tool that, and it will pull from our information. It's basically like asking all of us a
really?
question. Like, so that's what our tool is going to be. It's going to help everybody with that. It's hopefully not going to be invasive and brutal and the bad form of AI. And if you test it right now, anybody out there that goes to fantasyfootball.ai now, if you sign up as a tester and become part of the Founders Club, you'll get a discount code for 25% off any fantasy line product to thank us for helping. But I want people to test this product and come to me and say, hey, I think this is really good, or I think this is not working,
Great.
or I think this is actually something bad. Like, test it and tell us, because like we want it to be something great. So fantasyfootball.ai, we're into the ground level if we got that website too, right? Like, that's a good one.
Yes.
You too, you guys gotta start playing. Let's get a
I
league.
spoke today about it. And I'm so
Blakely,
excited. I'm really excited about that.
is Blakely coming to the? Is she gonna come hang out at the Scott Fish Bowl or what?
Yeah, definitely. She was asking if she can help us out too. So,
Yeah,
um,
come down.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna get into
Everyone's
that.
invited. Everyone's
Of
invited. You don't have to
course,
be
of
in. Yeah,
course.
you don't have to be in. Like, I'm not drafting live there. I'm just gonna be hanging out. Like, a bunch of people will. So just come down. Come down and hang out.
I would love to meet her. I never met Blakely, so I know Joe, but I never met his wife. So I'm gonna be honored to see everybody there. It's gonna be amazing. A couple weeks.
Yeah.
That's really great news, Coop. I know that AI is taking over, and as a teacher, it's driving me insane because as a
Right.
word language teacher, I see my kids using Chat GPT so they can give me words in Arabic which they don't make sense at all.
Yeah.
AI is not good, not yet in word language. It's not
Yeah,
good.
that was
So
we don't want AI creating its own thing, right? It's just we don't want it. We want it to share our information. That's what ours is doing. So we
I
don't want
agree.
it trying to replace our writers. It's not doing any of that. It's basically taking our information, helping share it, no matter what time of day, no matter what's going on. So
Yeah.
hopefully it'll work even when you're live on the clock really quickly. So I'm feeling good about it. I'm liking it.
So I want to ask you about a funny story. I don't know if you heard about it or anything, but before we continue about industry and community, did you hear about Amun Ra and how he picked his number 14?
Yeah, I did hear that, which is
You want
so
to
cool.
share
But
that?
please, you tell the story,
No,
or you want me to
it's
tell
it's
it?
it's me. Like you are on the show, so I'm asking you if you heard it and if you want to share it with our audience.
Yeah, it's he is like one of those guys. I was first of all, I want to share that I was completely wrong on this player. I thought he was just going to be
Yeah,
just a guy. I thought he was just going to be just a slot guy like Tyler Boyd or Cole Beasley, and they were going to
I
add weapons, and he was going to fall on the back burner. And a lot of people did, and that's
yes,
why he fell so far in the draft. And he fell really far, and a bunch of other wide receivers got picked before him. So he asked his girlfriend at the time to look up the number of wide receivers that got picked before him, and she said, hey, it was 14. And he goes, I'm going to pick number 14 to remind myself how many guys got picked before me, which
yeah.
is, I mean, incredible, except that she miscounted. And I believe it was actually 16 players that got picked for him. So his jersey, you know what, Carla? It's the thought that counts. It's the thought that
I
counts.
agree.
So yeah, but this guy, I mean, like
Jack
he just
told me
worked
he will
so
never
hard.
give me anything to count. So
Yeah, yeah. Unbelievable. It's the thought that counts. And like this guy works so hard. I mean, he reminds me, there are stories that about him that remind me of stories of Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin, there's one story that he used to go out and catch 200 passes after practice every day, to the point where if he in a row, if he dropped one, he would have to do it again. And one day it was so hot that the backup quarterback throwing him passes was actually like throwing up from too much, from the amount of passes this guy needed. Like, and Amon-Ra St. Brown does that himself. I think he has a number that he does like 212 or some specific number, but like
oh
he
wow.
puts in the work. That's what it's all about. So I've apologized to him multiple times. I'll do it once again. Sorry for doubting you, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You are the sun god, and you are incredible.
Yes, he is the sun god. Come on.
I know. He's too
So
good.
oh my god. So let's go back to a little bit of industry and community. What does winning the FSW A award mean to you, Coop? And
It,
congratulations, by the way. You really deserve it. Not just one. I think three, right? Three
yeah, we won. We won. I
this
got
year.
one article of the year, and
Amen.
football writer of the year, and then we won radio show of the year. And it's only a matter of time till our guy Doug Eorth in the chat gets one himself. Dude, Doug, he's been nominated multiple times now, and that's the thing is
Yes.
that like uh, when I first was nominated, it was the most important thing in the world to me. And when I lost, it was devastating, right? But I
Yeah.
lost to JJ Zacharyson, who's like the best. You know what I mean? So I can't blame anything on it. And then the next year, so that was I was nominated for Best Ongoing Series, which I believe was what Doug was nominated for this year. Uh, and then the next year, I was nominated uh, for Writer of the Year. And I lost that as well. And sure enough, JJ Zacharyson also won that. Right. So,
Uh,
like,
uh,
yes, of course. And then I was nominated again a third year for Article of the Year. But Brian Drake won that. And when you look at my article was just about tight ends. His article was about like his son. It was
yes.
beautiful. Like he deserved to win. And after losing like year after year after year, I realized that like going in and looking at the content of everybody that was nominated, all the work is incredible. It's impossible. We are splitting hairs. It's truly like there's no if you're nominated at all and you're a finalist at all, you've won. Because
I
like
agree.
like if I could have picked an article to win article of the year this year, I wouldn't even have picked my own. I would have picked Matt Donnelly's. Like go read Matt Donnelly's article about how he struggled with alcohol addiction and how fantasy football helped him out. Like that's an incredible article. Every article that was submitted was incredible. I liked mine, but like of course I like mine. I wrote it, right? Like so like by the time I actually did win, I realized how it doesn't matter as much. And of course, once I realized, I was just like, great, like I'm being recognized. That's a matter. Of course, that's when I win. But like it was awesome to win. Feels good to have done it. But I'll tell you what, just being out, named with all those people that wrote such great things is all that
It's an honor.
matters. And
Yeah.
the crazy thing now is that like that was last year, right? 2024 is over. Fantasy football is all about this year. Whatever happened last year doesn't matter. Show up to the draft with your trophy and your belt slung over of course do that. But
Yeah.
once the draft starts, that's all done. So like we have to focus on this year. Cool to win, but winning our members winning their leagues in 2025 is what matters now.
That's awesome. Like saying that, I've known Ryan, I've known a lot of people around, and you're right. Like just being nominated, it's a huge honor. And the FSWA, they do a lot of work, and they go through a lot of
Oh,
of you guys, the names and the scripts and everything, so they can pick one of the best every single year.
so
So
much info.
congratulations.
It's
Yes.
crazy the process because you have to like for those that don't know,
I
like
love
all
Andy. So I think
everything.
he does a
Yeah,
great job.
they set it up in a great way because everything has to
Yeah,
be removed and scrubbed. So when my stuff comes across, whoever's reading it, it doesn't say Fantasy Alarm. It doesn't say my name. Anything that references Howard Bender, anything that could give away who wrote it, you have to take it off. And then they
yeah,
read it without knowing who wrote it, and then it goes to the next level. And then I don't know the process from there. I'm not sure if they know who wrote it at that point or not, but like the process really does make it so that anyone can win. That's the best part. Don't think
yeah.
that you can't win an FSWA award because you don't work for Fantasy Pros or Fantasy Life or Fantasy Points or Fantasy whatever. Like submit your stuff because they will read it unbiased and they will treat it that way, which is why I
And
really truly love the process and I think that you do end up with a really good set of products at the top that everyone should read every article that was nominated and start
and
with Matt
people
Donnelly.
think sometimes, yeah, and people think sometimes, oh, they have a lot of followers. No, did you look that some people don't have a lot of followers
No,
and they want it? It's not about the followers. It's
doesn't
not
matter.
about who you are. It doesn't matter. It matters that you are bringing to them something really special, something really like different. So
Yeah.
I do agree with you 100%, and they're doing a great job. So I applaud them to that. What's your advice for new analysts entering the game, Coop?
Yeah, so you got to figure out what you're going to do, what direction you're going to do because like not I'm a writer. That's what I am. I do shows. Obviously, we're on one right now. How's everybody doing out there? I do the radio, I do the YouTube, I do the podcast, but like at my heart, I'm a writer. You don't have to be though. In the modern era, you can be a TikToker. You can be somebody that shares stats on Twitter. There are so many accounts on Twitter that they don't write articles, they don't do anything, just share stats. I love those guys. You can do whatever you want. So figure out what you're going to do and figure out how to get involved in that space. So me personally, as a guy who started writing, again, I told you my first podcast was like on a ironing board. You know what I mean? So like I was well into writing by then. If you want to get started as a writer, you need to build a portfolio somehow, but no one's just going to let you write. You might not be a coder, so you don't know how to like put it out there. My advice would be to go to Reddit.
Yeah.
Reddit is the one place where if you join the fantasy football subreddit, you can write something up and you can post it and people will read it. I'm on there every day and I'm reading a lot of stuff over there and people will tell you whether they like it, whether they don't, whether it's good, whether it's bad. I started posting there 10 years ago. My information, my stuff, articles were bad. It was unpolished. It was people were like, "There's grammar mistakes. I don't even know what the presentation is here." Like, and then the next time I took my information, my research, and I fixed it and I made it look nice and I made it presentable. And then people were like, "Oh, this is great, but it's boring." So the next time I come around and now there's some jokes in there and there's some stuff. And I took that and sent it to a couple websites and said, "Hey, you know, I can write. People are looking at it. They're commenting on it. Let me write for your site for free." And that's what I did. I wrote for free. And then after that, I got picked up to write baseball, oddly enough. And
Oh,
uh, at,
wow.
at Fantasy Alarm, yeah, I wrote baseball for a while because they were like, "Can you write baseball?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I just did the work because I wanted to write football eventually. And then, sure enough, a guy got his dream job, had to leave, had to move to go work for. He was working at Dick's and he got a job working at Callaway and they were like, you
Yeah.
have to, he's like, that's his dream job, work for Callaway as a golf guy, obviously. But they're like, you have to move right now. So then they're like, can you do rookies? Sure. Do whatever you want. You know, that's all I got to do. I was like, do whatever you want. I will do that. Uh, and if I have an answer already, love to see how you got started in tight ends. So here's the thing. So I started writing baseball. Then I was writing about rookies, right? Then they were like, okay, the draft guide's coming around. You're going to write about running backs, right? And I was like, okay. Howard Bender was the tight end whisperer to everybody at the time. So
Well,
I had this spreadsheet going on, and that I was doing this like big research project on tight ends. So I emailed it to Howard and John, and I was like, "Here is use this for your tight end article. It's like a bunch of really cool stats and information." And Howard turned around and he said, "You're doing tight ends," and
yeah.
I was like, "What?" He's like, "You do you got the spreadsheet?" He's like, "You do tight ends." And I was like, "What are you going to do?" He goes, "Well, what are you doing?" And I go, "Running backs." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'll do running backs." He goes, "You do the tight ends." So then I did tight ends that year. It just so happened the process that we were using, things
Yeah.
that a lot of people weren't looking at, uh, like small sample size guys, looking at how much they block on pass plays to see if they got more snaps, whether they would be blocking tight ends or receiving tight ends, right? Looking at those type of things just so happened it was a perfect year for that because Mark Andrews came out of nowhere and went crazy. Darren Waller went crazy. Like we had these guys all in the yin and yang tight end article, and people and it was posted for free on Reddit. And so many people circled back and they were like, "Wow, like this worked." I got Mark Andrews. I drafted him as my second tight end. He was going like tight end 18. I drafted him, so I had him before waivers even started. Like people were all fired up, and then from there we just kept working to improve the process. But yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be the tight end guy. Howard Bender
Well,
is still, in my opinion, the greatest tight end analyst of all time, the original tight end whisperer. We work closely together on that stuff. But that's how I became that guy, Doug, is that I just I was I put in the effort and waited for the opportunity, right? Because that's what they say. I forget what it even is, but it's like the combination of luck and hard work gets you something. I don't even know. Just
yeah.
Google it. It's some stupid poster, but like that's where I was at. I was like, I'm just going to do whatever they ask forever until I can do whatever I want, and then
I want.
eventually I was
That's
able to
awesome.
write the articles that I wanted to do, and those are the ones that win the awards.
That's amazing. That's a great, great, like, something to give, to someone entering the game. A great advice. Thank you, Coop. So, what's your favorite Sirius XM moment so far?
My favorite Sirius XM moment. That
Yeah.
is the thing is it's because I do listen to a lot of the shows that I'm not on. And still my all-time favorite is this clip that we have. I'm not even on it. I'm not even on the episode.
No?
But I've had so much fun that like, check out the show when I'm on. We have a blast. But like there was a prompt question on would you rather that where it was like would you go to jail for a year for $1 million or not? And John and Pemba immediately, and if anyone knows John and Pemba,
She said yes.
this is so on brand. He immediately goes, "Oh yeah, I do jail."
Oh,
And, and the best, the best thing is that we have that audio clip now, so that we get to relive that moment like all the time. Like anytime something comes up, like, "Oh yeah, well I'll just steal it." Shane Blunt and Josh Wagner behind the glass just hitting that button that goes, "Oh yeah, I do jail." So that I wasn't even on that show, but it just makes it just every time I hear that I get to relive that incredible answer. Immediately he says he would give away a year of his
oh,
life. He would sit in a room for a year doing nothing for $1 million. But knowing John and Pemba, he'd be having card games going. He would be just fine. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it makes it that much funnier. But just I do jail. That is my favorite all time favorite.
That's amazing. That's amazing. How about, did you ever had an oops on live radio?
Um, for sure. For sure, I've
Yeah.
had a few.
Can you
Never
share
anything
something?
that was like never anything that needed to be like bleeped or anything. I did have one recently where I was kind of like backdoored into we were talking about Titanic, the movie. Okay.
Yeah.
And and I was saying that the bad guy on Titanic was not that bad. Or maybe that the other people, not even that he was that bad, but like he was the one that got cheated on. And
Yeah.
Rose not only cheated on him, but she also took a $1 billion thing, threw it into the water. And she also was like married with a different family, but then was saying she wanted to go to heaven to see Jack, some like guy that she knew like 40 years ago. So I was saying all that. But then Shan Blunt reminded me, which I'd forgot, that that the bad guy, I forget his name now,
Yeah.
actually in the beginning of the movie, actually he hits Rose. Right. So my stupid mouth, I said because it was 1920, I was like, well, it was a different time. And that is something that you just don't say on the radio. So I guess that would be one time where I should have. You know me though, like I'm not like advocating for hitting people, but like it was the 1920s. It was a different time. So like that was one where like immediately Howard and Shan were like, don't do that. But I've heard much worse on the radio. For sure that was a mistake. I guess the other one was I wished my mother a happy Mother's Day, but
Yeah.
forgot to wish Kate a happy Mother's Day when she on the radio. She's also the mother of my child.
Oh,
Which I went back and re-recorded a clip that played multiple times on Mother's Day, wishing both my mother and Kate happy. Yes. I mean, dude, it always happens during the stupid wheel of randomness. They get me
yes.
on that. Like they're always like, "Oh, what was the best day of your life?" And like I say something, and they're like, "Not when your child was born." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Like Shan always, that whole show is set up to trick you. Definitely, we have so much fun on that show. Check it out, Sirius XM channel 87. But I do get in trouble. It's none of it's my fault. I'm a good guy. Okay.
None of it's your fault.
No,
People say
exactly,
it's
Carla.
Howard's fault. He's coming next week after you. So
It's
we will
not even Howard's fault. Well, actually, you know what? It's definitely Howard's fault. It's Howard Bender, Shan Blunt, and Josh Wagner are doing their best to like get you to say stuff so they can clip it and play it over and over again. Like they have a clip of me. They have a clip of me saying, "Those elf chicks are hot," that they play all the time.
Oh my God, no way.
We were talking about Lord of the Rings, okay? So just be very careful. If we have Doug on, I'm gonna see if we can get Doug to say something crazy when he comes on, and we'll clip that because if you say anything, even in
Yes,
context, they will clip it. So be very
let
careful on
them
those.
clip it. Let them clip. I always tell him something, so I need to hear it and hear it and hear it. Even if I'm wrong, I'm right. So he needs to
That's
say
right.
that. Just
Yes,
saying. Just saying.
exactly. Just like we have a saying, we you,
Yeah,
where when my wife says we need to take out the trash, that
we.
actually means you need to take out the
Yes,
trash.
It
So
means
she
you.
says, we you need to take out the trash.
I love that. So tell me, are you going to the expo this year?
Oh yeah, dude. I'm going to the expo. Howard's not going, so I have to work a bunch. But work in
Kidding me.
fantasy football is this. You know what I mean? Like,
He didn't
so
go
I'm
last year.
doing what's that?
He didn't go last year either.
Yeah, this year he's moving to Alaska. So I think I don't know if we're ever going to see Howard leaving in the continental U.S. He just wants to hibernate and be a voice of the people on the internet, which is his
Yeah,
right. You know, so
I agree.
I will be there. I'll be doing the Kings Classic redraft,
Yeah.
and then right after that, Brian Drake and I will be doing a show on SiriusXM live from the expo covering the auction draft. I'll also be
Nice.
doing the meet and greet to represent Fantasy Alarm, and I'll also be hanging out and just having fun. So I got a lot going on. Carla, you're going to be there, correct? Of course you are.
Yeah, maybe I'll come and
Superstar.
answer some questions.
Yes, come hang out.
Oh
Come
my
hang
God.
out.
I will
Yes,
be
you
watching,
should.
definitely. No,
You're a
I will.
star, Carla.
Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not. You guys are the stars, and you're making my life so happy. So I love that. I appreciate every single one of you. Because of you, this show is, it's blooming.
I mean,
So
it's because of you. Like you, there's reason people want to come on and talk to you is because you're fun and you're easy to talk to. We had a blast when you guys came up and hung out in Boston with us. We appreciate you coming to hang, and
oh,
it's gonna be
thank
exciting
you.
when you come back. You know,
You,
so
you made
it's my
you made it.
pleasure to come on this show.
Oh,
Truly.
that's an honor. You know that. So Coop, what episode of Coop's Fantasy Football Fiasco stands out to you?
Yeah, so that one is more of like and again, I got to get that back up and running. We were doing we do a lot during the regular season where we go through and we pick out teams to we do like weekly teams on that show to see if we
Yeah,
can win the FFPC weekly challenge. One
yeah,
that definitely stood out to me was one I did with Rich Rebar. People know him from Sharp Football. He's the Konami code. Me and him sat down and we put together the perfect lineup. So in that you can pick any player you want as long as you don't pick two players on the same team.
yes.
Our lineup was exactly perfect, except our quarterback, Jaden Daniels, got hurt on like the first play of the game. And if he had just played a mediocre game, we would have won a ton of money. But like Jaden Daniels was also so good during that stretch that he also could have been the best quarterback of the week. Like that week, we got robbed so hard. I was messaging Rich like back and forth. I was like, oh man, we're rich. What are we gonna? We're gonna have to buy the drinks for the entire bar at the expo. Like we're joking around, and then I think it was the 425 game. So like one of the last games of the slate. Jane Daniels, like first game misses first couple snaps, he's done for the entire game. I think he completed like one pass. So like just a complete rug pull. That one stands out big time.
Oh my God. Let me
Just
know next
awful.
time if you want to buy something for the whole people at the expo so I can be there.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, we have to win something first. Maybe this year, Carla.
You should. You should win something. So, for you, are projections more science or art?
Science. I am a
Yeah,
so my philosophy is always to take the stats that matter and I put them into a spreadsheet and I
yeah,
kind of weed out the people that I know statistically based on their profile and usage aren't really going to do anything. And then I go in and I watch the film. Like if you want to see an example of my process, go Google Fantasy Alarm Marvin Harrison Jr.
yeah.
In that article, I combed all the stats and then I watched all 500 routes he ran. And then I took all the important stats and I took all the important clips and I turned them into GIFs. So
Mhm.
no excuse for you out there. If you don't like reading articles, you can just watch the GIFs. You know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah,
just watch. So
I
like,
get it.
uh, but for me, the watching of football, I watched obviously all day on Sunday. That is something I enjoy doing and then I'll go through the stats and I'll go back and watch to confirm what we're seeing. Or if the stats don't give me a definitive answer, I go and watch the tape and see if we can make sense of it. Right. So, like for me, the watching of the film is crucial to confirm the information or to figure out new information as well. but the underlying stats have been our bread and butter and our way to get an advantage because sometimes what you see can be misleading as well. If I
Yeah.
show someone a clip of Jerome Simpson doing a front flip into the end zone, landing on his feet for a touchdown, people will think, "Wow, that's got to be one of the best players of all time." No, that just was just a random play. Like random things happen. It is a oblong ball that bounces around all over. It's a small sample size game, so I think you need both stats and film to truly be the best.
It's important to do your own research. And I cannot
Yes.
agree with that. I cannot, I always tell people, do your research because you cannot just, like you said, watch the video and just say, oh, okay, just because of that, I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
So people
I
need
will say
to
for
do
to people out there,
percent.
like you can the thing is we're doing a lot of work at the ground floor, right? Like the work I do at tight ends is a lot of work at the ground floor. It's a lot of research and stats. You can actually take a shortcut to
Yeah,
be like you can be better than me. I to some degree sacrifice
you're giving them everything. Yes,
I some degree sacrifice like some of the like I could just go around and collect all the information from the top analysts and then just play fantasy football, right? I'm sacrificing to some degree to provide that information. If you go out and take my info and JJ Zacharyson and Doug Orth and Dwayne McFarland and all the people you love and consume all of it and then make an informed decision based on all that information, you become the most powerful fantasy gamer there is out there. And that's the way to do it, you know?
I
So
agree.
don't feel like you have to do it all on your own. If you love researching running backs, do that. And then read my tight end guide, right?
And it's
Like
free of charge.
read what Matt Harmon has to say about, well, so a lot of the articles are free of charge, but the
Yes,
deep cut stuff is in the fantasy alarm draft guide. So make sure you pick up a copy of the draft guide. I do a lot of free stuff, but the draft guide, that one you can pick up right now. And you can if you go to fantasyalarm.ai, you can get 25% off and get a copy now. So make sure you're
that's
picking that
amazing.
up. That's everything I know about tight ends. Like I don't hold anything back. There are no secrets. That's where everything is. Everything
That,
I know. Everything I know, you will know.
yeah, yeah. That's really great info. So I'm gonna ask 10 questions like in a fast mode, and you tell me which one is which. Underdog or Yahoo for best ball?
Underdog for sure. Use promo code alarm when you sign up.
Redraft or Dynasty?
I prefer redraft. I love Dynasty too, but redraft, anyone can win any year. I love that.
Sleeper or breakout?
Which was the last second one?
Sleeper or breakout?
I like breakouts. I like those players that can really that can really blow up. Sleepers, I mean, like in theory, getting the guy in the very last round is great, but it just doesn't really work a lot of the
Waivers
times.
or trades?
Waivers for me. Waivers. I write the waiver article. We do yin and yang tight end
Yes,
trades. I mean, I wrote the article I won article of the year for 3 books for the fantasy trader will make you a better trader. But it can be that article also illustrates why it's so difficult. Waivers, I think, is a real that's something that you can do, and not everybody wants to trade. Not everybody likes taking risks. Not everybody is that outgoing, even
yeah, I
like
agree.
us.
Tight end or wide receiver, which I should know this one.
Wide receiver. No, just kidding. Tight end. Always tight end for me. But
I know.
the people are surprised to learn that I rank every position. I research every position. There are no leagues that are just tight ends, so we do it all at Fantasy One.
Points per reception or standard scoring?
Points per reception. I get the argument for standard, but the scoring is too boring. If you're going to come in and give me something like has points for first downs and other stuff, then maybe, but PPR.
Yeah. Mock drafts or live ones?
I have we still do some mock drafts. We always do them as part of the Fantasy Alarm draft guide, but I prefer the live drafts. I just do best ball instead of mock drafts for the most part.
Preseason or playoff madness?
Always. Actually, what's crazy? Yes, I might sound like a psycho. I love preseason. I love because it's like we're still speculating and we're still getting ready for fantasy.
Yeah,
Playoffs are like my time to relax and just enjoy football. But I
yeah.
love fantasy football. Playoff fantasy is fine, but like I love the lead up to football is the best. It's like it's Christmas Eve for a month. Give me preseason.
I do believe the preseason is when you all, and it should be called more madness because you all prepare for the playoffs.
It's
Like it's
crazy.
when you
Yeah,
prepare for the playoffs.
playoffs are fun. You know,
Yeah,
if you had asked me back when Tom Brady was playing, I'd probably say playoffs. But right now, as a Patriots fan, I like preseason.
yeah. Injury news or matchup stats.
Matchup stats. I injuries are so hard to deal with because you never know whether they're going to be ready to go or not. Matchup stats, we can learn about these defensive players and figure out a little bit about what's going on. Versus injuries are so hard. Sometimes a guy
Yeah,
plays one snap, sometimes he plays the whole
you never
game and
know.
he's off. It's tough.
Yeah. Last one, football IQ or gut instinct.
Football IQ always because the thing everyone has a gut instinct.
Yes,
Only the people that put in the work have a football IQ.
100%. I like 100% with you. So before we wrap up, Goop, I have one more question for you,
What do
which
you got?
I will never put it aside because everyone waits for that. So when I have my guests, I always ask them if they have any story or anything that they never ever shared live before. They want to share with me. Right.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Um, yeah, I mean, so I've never really talked about this. Uh, I've never really talked about it on air, but I will say that growing up, football shaped who I am as a person in so many ways that you wouldn't believe. Like from a kid, my dad loved it. I was with him every Sunday watching the games. We would play this game where I would stand in a door and he would just try and throw the football through the door, not trying so I could catch it. He would try and throw it as hard as he could so it would go through the door and I had to try and stop it or catch it. That's how I became such a good defensive back. I also ended up playing quarterback, but like it was everything for me growing up. And in high school and stuff, we went through a lot of different stuff, and didn't even end up starting, but being part of it, being like the scout player of the year, getting the teammate award, doing all those things really shaped like who I am. And to this day, the discipline and learning how to work out, learning how to take care of yourself, like that stuff I truly believe that without all that, I probably would just be like some troublemaker punk. And there were times in my life that I was kind of a troublemaker punk, you know what I mean? But like
Yeah,
that type of discipline and that type of stuff really, really taught me to be the guy I am today. And I like a lot of people, I went to college for finance and accounting, got a job in mortgages, was appraising commercial properties, worked my way up to being I was the vice president of acquisitions at some corporate real estate firm making a lot of money. And I just one day thought about I was like, you know what? I'm never going to be the best at real estate. Maybe I could be one of the best at this. And I made the jump to doing this full time. And it really all goes back to like how much I've loved football and how much this is what I've wanted. This is what I love. I love this game. So like, yeah, that never really talked about that part of things for me. So here we are.
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, Coop. I really
Thanks
don't
for
want to like. It has been an hour. I don't want to like end our show tonight, but I cannot I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. I know that you've been on a lot of shows tonight, and it's such an honor that you helped me kick off the Game Changers again. So let our listeners know how they can connect with you online and stay updated with your work, Coop.
Yeah, they can find me at Coupe Fiasco. It's right there. This graphic is incredible. Did you make this? Did Joe make it? I mean, it's so good. Uh,
JC, yeah, JC worked with the
oh,
graphic.
JC did it. Oh, of course. And
Yes,
the intro gets me fired up too. So yeah, the
yes.
Coupe Fiasco up there at the top. You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky. I share everything I do. I'm on Sirius XM, like we talked about. I'm on YouTube. If you really want my information, especially at tight end. Get a copy of the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide, and there are one article that's free. It's called "What Makes an Elite Tight End," and then there's three articles specific to this year: elite tight ends to fade, and yin and yang tight end. If you read those articles, you will be better at the tight end position than you were the day before. You don't need to take my advice. You'll have all the information you need, and my advice is in there if you want it. So get a copy of the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide now. And like I said, if you sign up as an early adopter at fantasyfootball.ai to just like test out our chatbot tool when it comes up, when you
Yes.
sign up for that, all you need is your name and an email. It gives you a 25% off discount code right on the screen that you just plug in at Fantasy Alarm. You can buy whatever product you want. You can become a member, which I encourage anyone to do, or you could just buy the draft guide and see what it's like. If you like the information in that, I guarantee you want to be a member because we leave no stone unturned. So check that out. And Carla,
That's
thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited for this season of the Game Changers.
Me too. Me too. I'm excited. So if you can share all of this stuff on Twitter with me, maybe tag me or something, so I can take it and then put it with the game changers. I'm gonna share that so people can rewatch it and see your information. That would be really good too. And I'll share it on the TSA website as well. Um, Coop, I'm serious. I cannot thank you enough for tonight and everybody for making this night like really memorable. I was like so excited to start back, and you made my night super sweet tonight. So thank you for joining me on this episode of the Game Changers. I hope today's conversation gave you a fresh perspective, not just on fantasy football, but on the game of life. Mark your calendar. Howard Bender returns as our featured guest on Wednesday, July 16th. You won't want to miss that. Big thank you to JC and tonight, Joe. Thank you so much for his help behind the scene. They have the magic, man. They have the magic, and they are the powerhouse of the team, of the TSA team, for making this platform possible to me. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media. Stay connected and be part of the Sports Affiliation, a community where every fan, thinker, and change maker belong. Until next time, keep challenging the game and making your mark. This is Carla and Coop signing off. I wish you a pleasant evening, everybody.